Hello, my friends. How's it going? Welcome to Mark's Music Place. And if you haven't subscribed, I always try to get that out the way first. Please subscribe if you like the content. Definitely hit the bell so you'll know when I'm posting another video. And please write some comments and also a thumbs up and all that. It all helps the channel. So, I thought about this for a second, and I say I should make another video. I made a video about this a while back called Gear Acquisition Syndrome, or GAS. That's an actual thing, and it's not just gear, but it's just an obsession of buying things. You got some people that just buy tools. Um, you got a lot of people that might be hairdressers that buy a lot of hair chemical products. You people that are into cooking that buy tons of baking goods. And a lot of stuff is, do they even need half the stuff that they buy? And most of the time, believe it or not, we buy so much stuff. So to kick the video off, I'm gonna put it off like this. I was buying all these cameras and lenses, and I realized that really I didn't need a bunch of camera and all these lenses. I only needed one or two cameras and to buy key essential lenses, 3 or 4 key essential lenses, period. And the 3 or 4 key essential lenses with maybe these couple of cameras would do everything I would ever need to do as far as photography. And so what I was doing was I was filling the void of getting out there and just taking photos of just different subjects. And I was, what I was doing was I was substituting that with looking for another lens, another camera, a great, if I can find another lens, another camera. And so I was watching a video. I was watching this video. I think it was another YouTube video, and it made it about a couple of years ago. And they were like, don't buy any more gear. Well, honestly, and I had to think about this for a minute, and maybe you ought to think about this too. What motivates you to do music? Personally, for me, and I'll leave it at like this: nothing motivates me than to listen to a great song by a great artist or slash musician with exceptional talent. When I'm listening to a keyboard player or a guitar player or a singer, or whatever the case, a musician, and they're playing that instrument so well that it captivates my attention. You know what I lose focus on? I don't worry about what keyboard they're playing anymore. I don't focus on the chords. I don't care if they're Mojave cables that he might have plugged in or whatever, or Hosa cables or whatever, or what kind of keyboard amp or guitar amp anymore. I'm just listening to that artist or that singer, that musician, playing the instruments that they're playing. And you know what? One thing about so many different artists that played so many different instruments. Let's go to rock guitar players as an example. You notice that the late and great, rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen, and look at the guitar that he used to play before he got so big that he came up with his own guitar amp line, the EVH guitar amp line. Then look at Angus Young from AC/DC and Slash and all these different guitar players. And that's just the guitar players versus even the jazz guitar players like Norman Brown and George Benson, Earl Klugh and so forth, or even other guitar players because there's millions of guitar players, or even piano players. When I'm watching an amazing piano player, I don't. If they're playing this Yamaha C7 Extended Grand, or it could be another piano player playing a Borsendorfer or whatever, or another piano player playing a Steinway and Sons. I don't really care about the name of the piano anymore. So much am I captivated with the musician. So I don't want to be very long on this video. I don't want to be very long. Well, I guess what I'm saying is I used to think that if I had, whatever, this piece of gear, that piece of gear for my studio, it would make my studio. Really, honestly, and I'll leave it at this. You know why most of the time when it comes to gear, and I look at these studios, it's simply because someone else has it. And so a lot of times when other people have certain gear, we think we need that gear too. When in actuality, I look at it like this. If I look at East West or Blackbird, or I look at Ocean Way or Larrabee and some of these other studio tours, Sunset Sound and all these other I'm talking about these commercial studios, and you look at their racks of gear and the stuff that they have. Then I'll look at Treasure Owl as an example. Treasure Owl, who's pretty much next door to Blackbird, has nowhere near the amount of gear that Blackbird has. Blackbird got so much gear. He's got storage containers for he's got so much outboard gear. I mean, he's got rows and rows of outboard gear. Just tons of microphones, cable. I mean, he's got ridiculous amount, but he's running a 9 studio facility. I think it's at least 9, control rooms and live rooms, or quite a few control rooms, live room, maybe some mixing room, master rooms, and so forth. He's running a pretty good sized facility. Treasure Owl is pretty much only running maybe a couple of rooms. That's it. They're nowhere near. And so is some of the other studios over there in what they call Berry Hills, Nashville. And that's not including the studios like down that are on Music Row, whatever the case, like Ocean Way, Nashville, or RCA Studios, or whatever the case. But then there's other studios like Fame Studios out of Alabama that has a couple of control room and live rooms. They got an A room and a B room, whatever. But the gear. The reason I'm bringing up Treasure Owl as one example is because he has quite a few of the expensive gear that we all know about. He does have some API and Neve and gear like that, but he has a lot of warm audio and other sources of gear. He has that. So, with that being said, they're making people that are booking that studio are getting pretty much the same high quality results as if they went next door to Blackbird. So it goes to show that it really isn't so much the gear as it is the person using the gear. So what happens is that I think that's what happens when we see all these large studios with all this gear and we think we need it, when in actuality, really what we need is good artists with good music that have great talent. As long as that continues to remain, That's the ideal. So now, now to end my video, would that sit there and say, do I still wouldn't mind having a few more preamps, a couple more compressors, things like that, a few more microphones, more cables, more mic stands and all that? Naturally, I do, because I want my setup to be equivalent to the studios that I see. But can I do what I need to do at right now? Because all the other stuff that I still want are just wants. They're not needs. I don't need to have any more preamps. I can get away with one preamp if I'm just doing one vocalist, believe it or not. One compressor with the software and everything else, believe it or not. You really can. You really don't need anything in this room to get great recordings. It used to be that you had to have the commercial studio type of setup 30, 40 years ago. Not today. So to sum up the video about gear, the question is really the title of the video. Do you need to buy more gear to improve your mix? Or do you need to keep buying more plugins, more software? Do you need to, buy more preamps, microphones? If you have the basic stuff that you need, an interface, and it has preamps in it, or you have an external preamp, which I highly recommend. Maybe you have a couple of pieces of outboard gear, a couple of microphones, dynamic, at least one or two condensers, some studio monitors, whatever DAW software you're going with, plugins you're going to go with, and bare essentials like that. Can you do great, amazing stuff with it? And the answer is absolutely yes. The only reason why you would see a studio like some of those commercial studios like Larrabee or East West, I keep naming East West because those will always come to mind, even though there's so many. There's Air Studios, there's a lot of recording commercial type facility studios that are still around, even though hundreds have closed. There's still hundreds of commercial studios still, like The Village. Most of the people that are using that are people that need to multi-track with multiple amounts of musicians, and they need to have the channel count and everything else. But that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to say absolutely not. You do not need more gear and plugins, even though they keep coming out with more gear and plugins, because they're going to always come out with more gear, more microphones, more plugins. And yes, I get it. Even Warm Audio's creating more mics like the CX12. But let's say you had a Warm Audio W887. Can you make amazing vocals with the W887 microphone for vocals? Or do you need to get the Warm Audio W88000? Because you heard that was a microphone that record R&B vocals and hip hop and all that. Even though you might already have a Warm Audio W887. Do not get caught up with the fact that even if Warm Audio comes up with new mics, or some of the other companies keep coming out with mics, because they're always, companies stay in business as long as they can get you to be a repeat customer to keep buying gear that they make so they can stay in business. That's how any business operates. And I'm not saying don't not buy gear for these companies on stuff that you might need. And even it's even okay to buy stuff that you want, as long as you're not going ridiculously broken in debt to do it. So So that's going to do it for this video. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Do not allow yourself to get caught up with gear. Allow yourself to get caught up with artists, musicians, and talent. Because without artists, musicians, and talent, the gear is useless anyway. So if that company come out with that new set of speakers, or this company comes out with that new microphone, this company's coming out with that new software, this company's coming out with that new plug-in, they coming out with that, you got to sit back and say, let me pump my brakes and say, wait a minute, do I really honestly need that next plugin on top of the 1,000 plugins I already got? I stopped buying plugins. I just don't need no more plugins. There's really, with plugins, a few EQ plugins, compressor plugins, reverb plugins, delay plugins, with a few that that's all you're gonna really do on your mixes anyway. You're not gonna use all 1,000 of the plugins that you got. You're just not. So that's gonna do it for this video. Sit back and ask yourself, do you honestly need it? Most of the time, you've gotten caught into the psychology of thinking you need it when really you want it. And it's more of a want than it is a need. So that's going to do it for this video. Just think about that for a second. What I was going to say is that a good skill set comes from just using the tools that you already have and doing it over and over and over till you get better and better and better at it, instead of buying more gear to fill a void of thinking that that's going to fix any issues with anything that you're doing. Whether it's recording, mixing, or whatever, and you think, well, I'll just buy another piece of gear that's going to help me fix my mixes or my recordings. When all it is if you got problems with recordings because you just don't know how to record, and that's not being condescending or mean, it's just a fact. You learn how to record properly, then you realize what pieces of gear and tools to buy and what would be beneficial, and what will help the stuff that you need more than things that you want. Other than that, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.